This is Division Case T180197, Ed Litzinger versus Big Tex Trailer World Incorporated, doing business as Big Tex Trailers. Today's date is April 11th, 2019. This is Linda Bulke with the division, and this is a witness interview being conducted with Mr. Rich Edgell. It's being conducted telephonically, and also on the line is respondent counsel Laura Gibson. Mr. Edgell, you're being interviewed today as part of an official Attorney General investigation, so you are required to answer all questions truthfully, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
All answers to questions should be verbal in order to be recorded, so please speak as clearly as possible and wait until the question is completed before beginning your response. Okay?
Okay.
Your testimony today should be based upon your personal knowledge. If it is based upon speculation or opinion, or something you may have heard from someone else, you just need to let me know, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And your testimony today will be taken under oath or affirmation, meaning that intentionally failing to tell the truth could be a criminal violation of perjury under Arizona state laws. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. With all that said, if you would raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Okay, and for the record, sir, please state your full name, address, and telephone number.
My full name is Richard E. Edgell, Edgell. My address is 2511 North Witchwood, WYCHWOOD, one word, Court, Tucson, Arizona, 85749.
Okay, and Mr. Edgell, when did you begin your employment with Big Tex Trailer?
I did not give you a phone number. I can do that now.
Oh, yes, please.
All right, area code 214-317-3448 is my cell number.
Okay. And Mr. Edgell, when did you begin your employment with Big Tex Trailer World?
January 3rd, 2016.
Okay. And what position did you hold at the time you commenced your employment with the company?
Regional manager.
And is that the position you held throughout your employment?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you still the regional manager?
Yes.
Okay. Can you briefly describe for me, sir, what your duties are as regional manager?
It's to oversee the operation of a region of dealerships throughout the southwestern states to assure success against target goals, including sales and earnings.
Okay. And how many stores?
Including all operations.
How many stores do you oversee?
Currently 10.
Okay. And at the time Mr. Litzinger was employed with the company, how many stores did you oversee?
I don't remember when we took two and moved to the Midwest. It was either 10 or 12. I do not know for sure what date that was.
Okay.
I think it was 10. I'm sorry. I know it was 10 at that point.
Okay. And let me ask you this: when you began your employment with the company, did you undergo any kind of training in regards to your responsibilities as a member of management towards equal employment opportunity or anti-discrimination?
Did I go through any training with
Yes.
that? I think not specifically, but I've had a long career of managing where I have gone through extensive training.
Okay. And if you're aware, sir, does the company have a policy governing reasonable accommodation requests?
Yes, we do.
And what is your understanding of that policy? What does it say?
The policy, my understanding of it is that we will accommodate people based on their needs to assure that they can function in their role and provide the equipment and or items that they need to do that.
And if a person with a disability requires a reasonable accommodation, is there a process in place to where they might seek one from the company?
We have an open door policy that anything that the company that an employee is concerned about, they can and would have access to my number, to the HR department's number.
And how would they know about this open door policy?
It's posted in our buildings.
Okay. And if an employee required a reasonable accommodation, is that process for how to ask for one, is that memorialized in writing anywhere?
I do not know.
Okay. Does the company have an employee handbook?
Yes.
And does the employee have policies that does the employer have policies that protect its employees from unlawful discrimination?
Certainly we have policies against unlawful discrimination.
And where would employees find those policies?
I'm not totally versed. I don't have my handbook in front of me. I'm not totally versed on where that is.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a few more policy questions, and then I'm going to ask you some more specific questions about Mr. Litzinger, okay? Does the company have a policy governing discipline?
I'm not certain what you mean by a policy.
Okay, so in other words,
governing discipline.
If you would have concerns regarding an employee's performance, is there a written policy about, counseling or reprimands, things like that?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
There are forms for it. And requirements to submit.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last thing you said. There
are some forms, but typically it goes through an email system.
Okay, so if an employee gets written up, you email them?
No. We would send an email back saying with a form or a comment on a verbal.
Okay. Do employees sign off?
Conversation.
Do employees sign off on those forms, or how is it communicated to the employee that there's a problem?
If it's a written warning, the employee signs the document.
Okay. And if you know, are those documents then retained by the company?
I do not have knowledge where those documents are retained.
Okay. Do you know whether the company maintains personnel files?
I do not have access to personnel file.
Okay.
That would be a question for somebody at headquarters.
Okay, and who would have the answer to that question, if you know?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Sorry, I coughed. I couldn't hear you.
That's okay. Who would have that knowledge, if you know?
I think you could just ask. I think that Laura could go through Brittany and find out who would have that knowledge.
Okay.
I mean Brandy, and find out who would have that knowledge.
And who is Brandy?
She is she works in our legal. She's part of our legal support team.
Okay.
She keeps track of issues, cases like this, and she coordinates those things.
Okay. So you're not aware whether or not those written disciplinary forms are kept in employees' personnel files?
I'm not directly aware.
Okay. Going back to Mr. Litzinger, you were Mr. Litzinger's supervisor, Mr. Leader's supervisor, is that correct?
Mr. Leader's supervisor, yes.
Okay. And Mr. Leader was Mr. Litzinger's supervisor, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did Mr. Leader ever inform you that Mr. Litzinger had any kind of medical issues or medical restrictions?
Obviously, he had time off for his medical procedure, and as he came back to the job, we understood that he would not be getting around as well as in the past, and understood that and allowed for that, and made allowance for that. That in fact he couldn't get around as fast, as rapidly as he did in the past. He chose his return date. We did not choose his return date. He chose his return date, and had come back to work.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's it.
You were going to say the only.
No, that's fine. He came back to work. He chose his return date, like I said, and we were not aware of any. I was not aware of anything else other than travel. Okay,
let me ask you this. You said that the company made allowances for Mr. Litzinger because he wouldn't get around as rapidly as he had before. What allowances did the company make for him?
Okay, it was not a physical allowance other than the fact that we understood he wasn't going to get around as quickly as he did before. Nothing was ever requested for an allowance for him or anything else. He did not ask for anything else, other accommodations at all.
Okay, did
It's
Mr.
simply an understanding that he would not be able to run or jog or those kind of things. Not that he was ever required to run or jog.
Okay. So, did Mr. Leader ever discuss with you concerns he had about Mr. Letzinger coming back using a cane?
I don't understand. Did he express any concerns?
Yes.
I don't totally understand it. I'll answer exactly what I heard.
Okay.
I never heard that Mr. Leader was concerned about Ed coming back with a cane.
Okay. So, did Mr. Leader ever tell you that he told Ed he could not return as long as he was using a cane?
I've never heard that.
Okay. How often did you communicate with Mr. Leader about Mr. Letzinger?
I have no idea how often I communicated with Mr. Leader about Mr. Litzinger. I communicated with Mr. Leader on a daily basis, probably 6 days a week, but I don't know how many times that would have included conversations about Mr. Litzinger.
Do you remember any conversations you had with Mr. Leader about Mr. Litzinger?
Well, sure, I remember conversations, yes.
Okay, and what conversations do you recall?
What conversations do I recall?
About Mr. Litzinger.
What do you mean? What
you said
were they about? What was the discussion?
Correct.
What was the topic? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, I'm asking you what conversations you recall and what you discussed with Mr. Leader regarding Mr. Letzinger.
Okay. We had conversations regarding him coming back to work, or the fact that he was back to work. And I'm in the store occasionally, the dealership occasionally, so I saw Ed back to work, Mr. Litzinger back to work. We had conversations about Mr. Litzinger coming back to work. We had conversations about Mr. Litzinger's work performance and Mr. Litzinger's willingness to do what his job entailed, what his responsibility was.
Okay, describe for me what conversations you had regarding Mr. Litzinger's performance.
The conversation with Mr. Litzinger's performance were basically in two general areas. One was an ongoing issue on results. And ongoing issue on results, I believe we provided a document that shows that the store manager was selling well over half of the sales in the dealership, and that was along with his various other responsibilities, total other responsibilities to run the shop, run the entire dealership. So it's the expectation is that over time that a salesman would sell significantly more than what was being sold by Mr. Litzinger. And so that was the performance. The other performance was near the end of Mr. Litzinger's employment. Well after he had come back to work, he had declined to actually do his job with he was refusing to go out and talk to customers and do the things that he was required to do by job description.
And when did that occur?
I don't have the exact date.
Approximate date.
But it was, what was the date of his, February. It was sometime in January.
Okay, so it was after his surgery?
Yes, well after, I don't remember when he came back from the surgery offhand. But yes, it was probably toward the latter part of January.
And when did you first begin conversations with Mr. Leader regarding your concerns with Mr. Litzinger's performance?
It was probably, I don't know exactly. They would probably been going on for 30 days or so. But before his surgery, we had conversations as well, but we had more conversations toward the end because of reduced or declining results.
Okay. So, did you memorialize any of your concerns regarding Mr. Litzinger's performance deficiencies?
I could not find any additional documents as I looked through the things that I had sent. We talked so frequently, many times, several times a day, that not much ended up in the email system, in the email trail.
Did you make
I searched through the email boxes that I have.
Did you make any kind of notes, any kind of supervisor notes regarding concerns with the performance of Mr. Litzinger?
I don't know of any. I could look back and see, but I don't know of any just off the top of my head.
Did you ask Mr. Leader to take any kind of action regarding Mr. Litzinger?
I asked Mr. Leader to have a discussion with Mr. Litzinger regarding his performance, but more specifically, his refusal to get up and go talk to a customer about a trailer, where he specifically said to our administrative assistant and someone else, I can't remember who else was there. I think it was a temporary salesperson we had, but he said to our our store administrator that he did not know anything about the trailer that the gentleman was looking at in the lot, and he was not going to go talk to him. It's one of our customers that had spent their time and